Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Catherine and this is Raspberry Reads. Today I'm going to film my May wrap-up video and I am still sick, so please bear with me that I'm sure I'm not the only one, but the allergens in May, June really knocked me down, so I'm super congested. But anyways, I had a really successful May reading reading month, and I read 5 books, or finished 5 books, and I believe it's a mixed bag in terms of what I did read. So without any further rambling, I'm just going to get into what I finished. So the first book that I finished reading was Flashlight by Susan Choi, and this was a book that was shortlisted or longlisted for either the Booker or the Women's Prize or both. And in any case, and this was for 2025, it came out. And I had it on my holds as an audiobook for absolutely ages because I felt like, oh, I should probably read this. It looks like something I'd be interested in, and it's getting so much hype. So I finally listened to Flashlight, and it was a really middle of the ground book for me, middle of the road rather. And so I gave it 3 stars. And this is, I suppose, literary fiction, but also has historical elements. It's a family saga, and it has to do with family saga and also mystery. And I'm going to be very careful because I don't want to give too much away, but essentially the premise is that a daughter and father get into difficulties in water in Japan. The daughter survives, the father is never found. And I should say that the father is of Japanese descent, but the mother is American. And so the daughter and the mother relocate to America, and it's kind of a coming of age story. I think it's also going like back and forth in time a bit, trying to cover the daughter processing her trauma, but also her relationship with her mother. And there's a lot about her relationship with her father. But then there's a whole second part of the book that I can't really go into, otherwise it would end up spoiling it. So, whilst I didn't really get into the first part of the book, I found it a little bit tedious. Once you get into the second half of the book and the kind of mystery element, it then redeems itself a little bit. So that's being really vague. But it's well written. The characters are interesting. It's a bit long, I would say, so I listened to it on audiobook, and I did find it a little bit long. But it is certainly a book that's worth reading, especially if you like family sagas. Then, yeah, I would say give it a try. So yes, that was Flashlight. So I'm just going to grab my notebook. Yeah, very middling read for me. Then I finished A Little Trickery by Rosanna Pike. So this is historical fiction, and I keep thinking about this book. So I only finished it in May. I'm now filming this in mid-June, but I do keep thinking about this book. So upon reflection, I can very much recommend it. I gave it 4 stars. I did enjoy my reading experience. It wasn't something that I'd really come across too much before. So this is about Tib, who's a vagabond, and so she's roaming all over England, and she ends up sort of befriending unlikely companions along her travels. And what they end up doing is creating this hoax in a church. And I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, there's a whole, the trickery element is she participates in a hoax, for like a miracle hoax. And did I say that this is set in the medieval period? No, medieval Tudor. I think it's Tudor period. This book, I think I commented on this book before, that it's really unclear from just the descriptions what the time period might be. The cover makes it look like it could be medieval, but I'm pretty sure it's actually Tudor period. In any case, historical fiction, really funny characters. It's quite vulgar. There's a lot of swearing in this book, and that's different in a historical fiction read, for me at least. I don't come across that too much. And it was just something a little bit different. So I really enjoyed my reading experience with a little trickery. I liked Rosanna Pike's style. I thought it was something quite unique. And yes, I give this book 4 stars, and I can wholeheartedly recommend it, whether you're into historical fiction or not, because although there are historical elements to it, it's really just about enjoying the story and Tib's journey along the way. So yes, that was the second book that I finished in May. And then I finished The Storyteller's Death, which I've also spoken about before, and this is by Anne Davila Cardinal, and this was an audio book that I listened to as well. And I'm just grabbing my notes. So this one was about Isla. She's a teenager who lives in I think she lives somewhere near New York State, but I can't remember. But her family is Puerto Rican, so Isla ends up spending a lot of her vacation time with her family in Puerto Rico. And then there's this magical realism element where some members of the family have these like episodes or flashbacks where they are imagining something that happened in the past, but knowing so much detail that the only way they could do it to know it would be as if they were actually there. So they're seeing their ancestors' memories through their episodes. And so that's a really interesting magical realism element. I really like the storytelling dynamic of sort of like family history, and particularly with this book, there's a lot about social inequality or class in Puerto Rican history, like racial difference, and how that haunts the family's legacy. And then there's like a mystery element in this book as well, and you find out, you kind of solve the mystery in the end. So yeah, I really enjoyed this book. It wasn't one that I'd ever heard of before. I just picked it up because it was available on Libby at the time. But yeah, I do still think about this book, and I really enjoyed my listening experience with it. So I think for that reason, I would recommend The Storyteller's Death to you. And then the last book, is this the last book? No, second to last book that I finished in May was The Book Thief. So I finally finished The Book Thief by Markus Zusak. This is a well-known historical fiction classic set in the Second World War in Germany, and it's about a girl named Liesel, who is in a foster family, but like long-term in the foster family, and how the story is narrated by Death. So it's Death is looking at sort of Liesel's life and all the times he interacts with her, but essentially telling the story from the German perspective and a German Jewish sympathizer perspective, the sort of start of the Second World War. Yeah, it's a classic for a reason. It was a beautiful book. I don't know if I would ever reread it. I might do, but I feel like I got everything out of my reading experience that I could do with that book. But I would highly recommend The Book Thief if you haven't read it. I think it's maybe one of those books that might be for a younger audience, but I don't know, maybe not. My partner said that she read it a long time ago, but I think it's definitely could be a young adult book, but it's, appropriate for any age. But yeah, what a fantastic book. And then the last book that I finished in May was a memoir, which I never read, but I was sucked in by the title because I don't know if you know this about me, but I love goats. My grandmother had a farm when I was growing up, and she had goats on that farm, and I was very fond of them, so I've always had an affinity for goats. So I saw this book called Flat Broke with Two Goats, and I was like, ooh, that sounds interesting to me. I would like to read that. So this is a memoir by Jennifer McGaha, and she lives in the United States in the Appalachian area, and it talks about how her and her husband fall on hard times after the 2008 financial crash, and they have to foreclose on their house and declare bankruptcy, and then they end up relocating to essentially renting a cabin in the Appalachian hills, and then start having like a little hobby farm. And it's all about how Jennifer, who is an academic, and her husband, who's an accountant, try their hand at hobby farming and learn all about the veterinary side of things, of looking after chickens and goats, and also all of the kind of critters that you would tend to find in the Appalachian hills or wilderness, like copperhead snakes and that sort of thing. So it was a really interesting book. I found the narrator, because I listened to this as an audiobook, I found her voice a little bit abrasive, so I found that a bit irritating, but the story itself was entertaining, and it's a really it's a heartwarming story, but it's also a story about of resilience, of what people had to do to overcome the difficulties in the financial crash. So yeah, I would recommend it if you like reading memoirs. So those were the 5 books that I finished in May, and now that it's June, I'm really focusing on historical fiction for Read Historical Fiction 2026, which Shelley-ish is hosting, and I'm having a good time with that. And then into the summer, I'm going to be a little bit more relaxed about booktube, as I normally am in the summer, that I tend to, take some holidays. And so anyways, if you don't hear from me too much over the summer, just know that I'm off enjoying reading and relaxing and all of that good stuff. But I would love to know, firstly, have you read any of these books? And if so, what did you think about them? I'd like to know what you read in May. Did you have any books that were real wins that you'd like to recommend? If so, just pop them in the comments below. And yeah, with that, I think I need to just go and have a little nap because I'm feeling very congested right now. But I should say that I'm off shopping in a little bit, or mooching. I'm off mooching in a little bit, where I will probably go into some bookshops, and I'm excited about that. So anyways, I hope you're all doing really well. I hope you're enjoying whatever it is that you're reading, and I will see you soon in a new video. Take care. Bye.